Do you think the constitutional amendments will really take place?
Well, it's a government promise that at least they will set up a new constitutional drafting committee within the next few months. At least that's what is going to happen, very, very likely to happen during this parliamentary term. But after that, it's totally unpredictable.
Because the so-called constitution drafting committee, according to the story so far, will be elected from each province.
Yes.
So there'll be 77 representatives, one from each province.
Yes.
77 plus, I think, 22 that they will appoint, academics or whatever.
Right.
So it will be a 99-member constitution drafting committee.
Right.
And they cannot be MPs, they cannot be
senators. And if the Pheu Thai party has its way, they cannot be people involved in the drafting of the current constitution, the so-called military.
Well, they might assume that they could have indirect influence, because if they believe that they'll go for the election, they will think that the Northeast and the North, where the Pheu Thai party holds sway, could have their own candidates to run.
Right.
And the Southern may belong to the Democrats, so perhaps the same pattern will emerge.
Exactly. So it's going to be a big fight.
Yes.
In the so-called Constitution Drafting Committee. But then again, we talk about some independent, so-called independent representatives.
Yes.
Who many people believe or are afraid that will represent the Pheu Thai camp. So this, what we have to keep our eyes on is who these people will be. These are 22 or so people.
But if the Pheu Thai party has its way, what kind of changes do they want?
Well, I have listed a few things that we have to keep a close watch on. The first thing is the Senate itself.
They don't want a Senate anymore.
They, the hardline group in the Pheu Thai camp, they say that we should do away with the Senate.
Even if they're elected, right?
Right. They said that the Thai democracy has grown up and become mature enough that the House of Representatives do not need babysitting anymore.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they said.
But here in America, where you think they have advanced democracy, they have the Senate, they have the House of Representatives. So it's nothing to do with
checks and balances.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the advancement of democracy in any particular country.
Right. So a more moderate group in the Pheu Thai camp say that, okay, we can keep the Senate, but we have to do away with the appointing the Senate, or the senator have to be elected by the people. This is the more moderate.
Okay, that's one point you think Pheu Thai wants changed.
Right.
Okay.
And then the second point, a lot of MPs, they are not happy with all the restrictions about the MPs cannot not being able to assume other political positions, and they may want to change that. And this kind of change may be supported by the Democrat Party also.
I see. So they have common interests there.
But then a more, maybe the most explosive, controversial change, possible change, has to do with Article 309.
309, yes.
Of the current constitution.
Which would do away with all that
the legal
coup,
consequences
coup makers
of the coup.
Yeah, made, yes.
Yes, they consider this article to be a shield for an unjust legal consequences.
But there's a loophole there. If Pheu Thai pushes for that change, that means deleting 309, it could be seen by critics as trying to help Kun Thaksin alone. That is sensitive for them.
Right, but then they say that this is have some. They don't have to anything to do with it. It will be the decision of the drafting committee, so that they can say that this is the decision of the drafting committee.
But if they seriously want an independent constitution amendment committee or assembly, they shouldn't be talking about what they want. Either the ruling party or the opposition party. They should let the elected assembly decide.
Right.
Shouldn't influence their thinking. They should allow the amendment committee to ask the people, the public, what they want changed, and not asking the politicians.
Actually, Prime Minister Yingluck was saying the same thing, that she said that we have to let the so-called CDA, the Constitution Drafting Committee, make decisions, but I cannot prevent 300 people from speaking their minds. That's what he said.
Yeah. But I seriously doubt that the election of a constitution drafting committee will go ahead. I sense that there's some attempt to put it back into parliament so that the ruling party can have more control over the changes that they want made to the constitution. But it's very difficult because if you go back to the policy statement delivered by Prime Minister Yingluck, the first day she assumed office, there it mentions specifically that the government will appoint a constitution drafting committee.
Right. And the other thing also is it could putting everything back in the hands of Parliament could lead to some kind of paradox because if they really want to put something about the Senate changes, and then the Senate have to vote on that.
Yes,
so
yes.
it would be very, very
There'll
difficult.
be a very serious case of conflict of interest.
Right. So maybe it's easier to have a drafting committee.
Yeah, I would assume so, but I suspect that some of the MPs are thinking of Plan B. Anyway, democracy is about by the people, for the people, of the people. I hope it doesn't become for the politicians, by politicians, and of politicians. So I think
Next year will be very interesting.
it is from day one, from the first week. Constitution Amendment 112, the cabinet reshuffle, all sorts of political actions are taking place as soon as the new year begins.